So, good morning. It's my turn, and as you can see, I'm talking to Edward. Many of you will have known Edward for lots of years, and we're going to be talking about quite all sorts of things, actually. But Edward, thank you for being willing to sit in the hot seat this week and talk with me about you. And I wondered if you mind telling us a little bit about how music, in very many different forms, became part of your life.
I will indeed, but before I do that, I need to tell you that going through my mind all week has been the first words that Matt said last Sunday, which was, "Oh, there are a lot of people out there." So I thought, well, maybe next Sunday there won't be quite so many people out there, but there are a lot of people out there. Yes, my father was an artist and an art teacher, and he loved music. He sang in a male voice choir, and he loved all sorts of music. He collected records, and so I have memories of a recording of South Pacific sitting next door to the Sibelius symphonies. So I grew up with a whole range of music that I loved, and I loved pop music as a little boy as well. I was passionately in love for many years with Dusty Springfield. Sadly, nothing ever came of it. So then I had, first of all, piano lessons, and then I had flute lessons, and the flute was something that I absolutely did also fall in love with. So I went on after school to music college, and teacher training college, but I didn't really want to be a school teacher, but I did it for a few years as a peripatetic, teaching instruments. Then I went to university to do a higher degree, and then I freelanced for some years as a flute player, and I also taught at the London College of Music. And then I did another degree, and then I got interested in broadcasting. And I joined the BBC in 1989. I went to Radio 3, which is the classical music station, and stayed there for 34 years. So that's most of the rest of the story, really. I went there first of all as a producer, then as a program editor, and finally as head of music. And also during that period, for 20 years, I was very closely involved with the proms.
Thank you. I'm sure some of you might know some of that, but not all of that. I was intrigued. So what we said to everybody who's sitting in the hot seat, please will you choose a piece of scripture and a favourite song. Well, we've just sung one of the song that Edward chose, that I heard came as from above. But I was intrigued when you said that you would like to have the readings from Luke chapter 1 that tells the story of the Annunciation, which, as we've just heard, is the time when the angel appeared to Mary and told her that she was going to give birth to God's Son. So why did you choose that passage?
Okay, well, the Annunciation goes back a very, very long way, and I can't now remember the moment at which I started to get fascinating in paintings and representations of the Annunciation. But I've sort of collected them for years. So whenever I go to a new art gallery or churches and things, we have, as you saw on the roundup this week, we have a wonderful Annunciation window at the back by the font. So I collect them and I photograph them and I collect them on postcards and whatever. And I've got an enormous lot. Why does it fascinate me, I wonder? Well, it is, isn't it, that stupendous first moment when God intervenes so directly in human history. And it's the beginning of the story of redemption. And it happens terribly privately. And it's even more private within the church's year as well, because the feast of the Annunciation is actually the 25th of March, 9 months before the 25th of December. And March is, of course, always Lent. And that week of the 25th is sometimes even Holy Week. So it's rare that we actually get to hear the reading that we heard today, so it's very nice to hear it. But I've always been struck by the fact that this was such a stupendous, as I said, but such a private moment. It was just Gabriel and Mary, and yet it had earth-shattering, heaven-shattering consequences. And artists have always, and theologians as well, excuse me, have always identified 5 different reactions that Mary goes through when Gabriel talks to her. And I've always felt as well that our own experience of the times when we feel that perhaps God is talking to us, or perhaps rather hoping that he wasn't, can be a little bit similar. Because first of all, when Gabriel arrives, there is what the theologians call disquiet. You know, what is this? What's happening with my normal life? What has suddenly burst in, really? Then there's reflection, and Mary thinks, but why me? This angel here, but why me? And then there's inquiry, because she's got a good question here, and she thinks it will probably floor Gabriel. But, you know, this can't possibly happen to me. I'm a virgin, and I'm not married. So that should clinch it, really. But, of course, Gabriel explains that this is all to do with what God will do. And so there is then, number 4, submission on the part of Mary. She suddenly thinks, oh yes, this does make sense. This is, I am to be who God says I am. And that's followed by acceptance. And she says, yes, of course, I agree. This has got to happen.
What I wondered is, which is your favourite Annunciation, and where is it?
That I wasn't prepared for this question. But actually, one of the most wonderful ones is in the National Gallery in London, and it's by Lippi, and it is the most beautiful one. A lot of the Renaissance painters were very, very taken with the Annunciation. It goes back very, very early. There's some very, very early paintings as well. But this is a particularly beautiful one. And the angel is absolutely magnificent on the left, and Mary on the right is listening to him very carefully. And it's gorgeously coloured, and so it's very wonderful.
Thank you. So now you'll have to go looking for Annunciations when you go into churches. So the Gospel reading, the reading that I read, flows on from the one that Juliet did. And it's those wonderful words of the Magnificat where Mary says, you know, yes, I will do what you've asked of me. And those words are sung, or they're said at evensong, in all sorts, you know, in the smallest of parish churches, in the biggest of cathedrals, and are hugely powerful. Tell us a bit more about those words.
Well, I think whatever translation you read it in, it is great poetry, the Magnificat. It is absolutely wonderful. And as well as being Mary's response, it's also an explanation of God's working with humankind across history. And I care very deeply about words. As well as loving music, I love words. I was brought up in an evangelical free church where there was lots and lots of singing, so that's where lots of the other music comes from. I've got thousands of hymns in my head. But there was no liturgy. It was a very freestyle sort of form of worship. And after I left home and discovered the Church of England, it felt a bit like sort of coming home. It felt like that there was somewhere where words were really important. And we have wonderful changing liturgy here, almost week by week. But the actual liturgy I find is really important. So I love words. And the Magnificat, of course, going back to the musical side of it, has been set by so many composers down the ages, have set the Magnificat. in all sorts of different ways. So the beauty of the poetry and the beauty of the music comes together, which I think is really quite important. But I just want to tell you about Bach's Magnificat, because he puts a little joke in it. Because you know the bit that we heard this morning about he has it, the humble and meek. Sally, prompt me. Has exalted the humble and meek? I think in King James Version it is, he has exalted the humble and the meek, and the rich he hath sent empty away. So in the Bach Magnificat, this is a rather lovely aria, particularly lovely because it has two flutes playing an obligato, so I would think it was lovely. And the flutes sort of mildly chirrup during all of this. And then at the very end, when you get to, and the rich he hath sent empty away, the flutes stop. They just stop sort of mid-phrase, and then there's just one boom from the basses at the end. The door is being very firmly shut after the rich who've been sent empty away. It's a rather lovely moment. Do go and listen to it. If it's a work you know, do go and listen to it. Sally.
You lead our worship, sung worship here at St Mary's, Edward, and we're always hugely grateful for the variety we experience all year round. Edward and I had coffee on Tuesday, and I said the first carol service back in 2017 when I was first here, I remember sitting over there looking across at Edward with the choir that had sounded pretty ropey at the first rehearsal and sounded absolutely amazing on the night of the carols, and thinking, wow, aren't we lucky to have you? So, but you do give us lots of different experiences. But how important is music for you in worship?
Okay, well, it's hugely important. And what Sally has just described about what tends to happen most Christmases is that we start off reasonably tentatively at the first rehearsal, and it gets sort of a bit better and a bit better and a bit better. And then we wait collectively for what we've come to know as the Wendover miracle. And it doesn't happen in a rehearsal. It happens sometime between the last couple of rehearsals and the actual Sunday when we do the concert. So we've all been working extremely hard, but again, it's one of those moments, isn't it, like in life, when you just need a moment of grace to actually make it all come okay. So we've been very lucky to get the Wendover miracle so far. I shouldn't have told you that, because of course it won't work now this coming Sunday. I think music really is hugely important. We have a Radio 3 program called Music Matters, and it has a deliberately two meanings. Music Matters means that music is important, and it's also a program about music, about matters and whatever. So it's a clever little title. But the music, I really believe that music does matter. And part of that is because I feel, and I don't think I'm alone, that my personal response quite often as a Christian is through music and because of music, all sorts of music. And I think that lots of people sort of feel in this way. There's something about music which gets down to the deepest places of us. I love words too, but words don't always do that. But sometimes music will just go somewhere, and music takes you unawares as well. That's the wonderful thing. You can be sitting in a performance of something, or you can be singing something, or whatever, and it completely takes you unawares. That hymn that we sang, the second one, "O Thou who camest from above," I can hardly ever sing the last movement, the last verse, and I couldn't this morning, because it sort of breaks me up, really, because the words are so extraordinary, and the tune is so marvellously joined to the words. And so when we're doing the music for 9 o'clock, the music for 10:45, we're working really with two different traditions. We're working with the tradition of mainly traditional hymns, and then we're working with the tradition of much more recent songs. And there's quite an area where they sort of meet and they overlap. But one thing that they have in common, I think, is that when it's a really wonderful hymn and when it's a really wonderful song, there is something about it which I call an earworm. It can stay with you. It gets inside you immediately, and it can stay with you. And quite often during the week, you'll find yourself, it comes into your head again, and you're listening to it. So we're always looking for the earworms, really. And so with this marvelous group of people who are just arrayed in front of me in the front rows here, which is alarmingly difficult. We take the music very seriously, and when we're choosing the music, we take it quite seriously. We try and match what else is going to be in the service, what the themes of the services are going to be. We don't always get it right. Sometimes we don't even know that we did get it right. And Sally and I have sometimes had conversations at the end of a service when we said, oh my goodness, when we chose that, we had no idea that something else was going to be said in a particular service, and it was just the right thing to sing. And so the earworm thing and the importance of really good music is really important to me. And there are at least two examples of it this morning. Actually, I think everything we're singing this morning is absolutely marvellous. But the two that I would single out is O Thou Who Camest from Above. And again, if you look at the words of that, it's a sort of Mary hymn as well, because it is very similar to the response that she had at the Annunciation with the angel Gabriel. And then much more, and it's a Charles Wesley hymn. I must get Charles Wesley in, because Charles Wesley is perhaps the very greatest hymn writer of all. And his grandson, S.S. Wesley, wrote the tune that goes with the hymn. And so sometimes you can interchange hymns with tunes with hymns, but sometimes they're so closely written together that they're so marvellous. And the other thing we're about to sing is With Me, God is With Me. Now, this is much more recent, and it was Suzanne who brought this to us. And it was, again, one of those moments. It was when we were doing one of the early CCC services with Jack. And Suzanne said, let's have a go at this. And we had a go at it. Tim and I think Lynn was here singing it. And it was one of those moments when I thought, yeah, this is an earworm. This is a really good one. So again, I hope you agree when we get to it. But the only other thing I wanted to say was that it is not only very wonderful to be involved in the music here, it's also a great privilege, because it can be felt at times that it really does aid the worship, and that makes everything that we do really worthwhile. And those moments when you just get those intimations of everything that God is are so important, and they just happen from time to time through what we do. So I feel very privileged to be able to do this.
As I said at the beginning, we are hugely, hugely grateful to you for sharing what you have today, and for for you leading us in the music here. So, shall we give Edward a round of applause? Once again, thank you, Edward. Next week, David Blakeman is going to be talking to Rachel, who's sitting over there just for us. So that was you may not know, you may recognise Rachel, but not know an awful lot about us. So do come next week for that. This afternoon is the treasure hunt. You come and pick up a paper with the route between 2 and half 2. Be doing it by yourself, being teams. Just turn up and grab one or two of the people that are around. It's not, it's perhaps just under a mile. I know it's hot, but I'm sure we can find shade. And then there are afternoon teas. They're going from 2:30, and will continue to everybody's back. So you come back and enjoy tea and cake. And a couple of people have volunteered to help Natalie. And if there's anybody else that can do that, please do come along. On Tuesday, please could I ask you to be particularly holding Carol and Mike Crockett in your prayers. Carol is due to undergo a major operation at the church level. They hope there's a possibility that they won't be able to do it, but if they do, it's a long operation, it's very complicated, and only God knows what the really successful things. So please be holding them, as I said, particularly on Tuesday, in your prayers, and we will get out a message as soon as we can to tell you what's been happening. I'm also very conscious, and I think I was even more conscious as people were coming up for communion, that the incident with Jenny is obviously shaking people. Please don't go home worrying and fretting. If you want to talk to somebody, there's a number of us go around just to pray and to talk. As she was breathing, whether the ambulance has gone now, I'm not sure, but Mike has gone with her. So again, be praying for them and for Jenny's recovery and for that Mike as well.
A quiet hum, a silent space. I didn't know I'd find this place. Thought I was lost, no words to say. And then the music starts to speak, a grace my soul was meant to see. You're in the sound, my heart is found. In every note you're all around.